Elevator pitching. Imagine walking past someone in a store or on the street. How much time would they have to hook you or grab your attention so that you stop and listen? A few seconds at best? Unless you're already stopped and standing around? This is called pitching. Pitching is quick messages designed to persuade. Now, you may have heard of the term elevator pitch. This concept began in Hollywood a few decades ago. Remember, this is prior to email, so the only way for a budding screenwriter to get a producer's attention was to either shove a script in his or her hand in hopes it would be read, or chase movie producers whenever they could to sell their ideas, even if it meant following them in an elevator. This trend caught on to other industries, and it's now a very common phrase. Pitching inside an elevator is handy because everyone is standing stationary. You only have a very small amount of time, typically between 60 and 120 seconds, to make an impression. Once the doors open and the person whom you want to persuade walks out, you may never get a second chance to make your pitch. Next time you're in an elevator, instead of sitting in awkward silence, practice your elevator pitch. Even if someone gives you an hour to sit down and formally present to them, you should still think about the first handful of seconds and minutes very carefully. People make very quick decisions about whether or not they like you, trust you, want to invest their time and money into you, etc. Any amount of time that they give you after the first 2 minutes is a bonus, but really, you will just be talking them out of their first impression of you. By the end of this lesson, you will have a better understanding of how to make a powerful first impression with an elevator pitch. Whether it's a potential investor to raise funds or a nosy relative at a family gathering asking what it is you do, entrepreneurs have to pitch all the time. You never know when you'll get a minute to persuade an investor, partner, or consumer that what you're doing is amazing, and to plant the hook for them to want to listen to greater detail and to potentially be involved. It takes an average of 54 pitches before you find one person who is genuinely interested in getting involved in your startup. You'll need to be patient and prepare to naturally, effortlessly pitch. So, there is no time for idle chatter here. People often waste a first impression on things that do not build value. Even before you say your first words, your audience is making calculations and decisions about what they think about you. If you look unhappy or shuffle around, fumbling with something in your hands, or your first words are apologies or negative thoughts about traffic or anything else that is not positive or upbeat, then you might be ruining the opportunity to make a good first impression. A common mistake made by less experienced pitchers and entrepreneurs is that they focus on what they are doing when they should be focusing on why they are doing it and why the listeners should want to be involved. So, try to know your audience, verbalize what the audience craves, and be concise and focus on the number one biggest why. There are 3 basic parts to a pitch. 1. There is a problem. 2. There is a solution. And 3. How your listener can be involved. Typically, entrepreneurs spend about 30 seconds on the problem, 30 to 60 seconds on the solution, which essentially tend to be biased towards the things that they're doing, and then 30 seconds if there's any time left over on how the listener can be involved. Their pitch ends up sounding something like this. In the developing world, a leading reason why little girls don't go to school is that they don't have a clean, safe toilet near their school. If you build clean, safe toilets near schools, then little girls can get an education. There is research that clearly shows that education will change the economics of that little girl, her family, her village, and the generations that follow her. My nonprofit, True Africa, raises money, and we then engage local workers and entrepreneurs in the developing world to build clean, safe toilets near schools. We're always looking for more people to get involved, to positively impact the lives of children in the developing world. For the cost of a pizza party, we can pay local workers in the developing world to build clean and safe toilets. Would you be willing to donate your pizza money to change lives of little girls, local economies, and future generations? Go to trueafrica.org to make a change in the lives of children who need your help. Whoa, bet I lost your interest in the first 30 seconds. While the initiative is great, the delivery was not. It was too long-winded with no particular points, nor call to action standing out. Instead, we recommend you to condense all that information in a succinct line or 2 by adopting the following structure. My company, insert name of company, is developing a defined offering to help a defined audience solve a problem with secret sauce. If you are interested, we are looking for what you need. So here is what True Africa's value proposition will now sound like. My company, True Africa, is developing educational solutions to help children in the developing world so that they have no barriers to going to school. We work in cooperation with local workers and entrepreneurs, providing clean, safe toilets, safe places to sleep, medicines, building and maintaining schools, and much more. If you're interested, we're looking for people to raise and donate money. Believe it or not, even the cost of a pizza party will change lives and the generations that follow. Go to trueafrica.org to learn how to make a change in the lives of children who need your help. Isn't this so much better? I thought so too. The content is similar, but the delivery is totally different. While there are no hard or fast rules about the right way to pitch, there are a few general guidelines. You may want to incorporate some of the following tips. 1. Appeal to your audience. This is an all-time favorite. The pitch that begins with, "Have you ever?" or "Do you wish?" or even a "How many of you have?" This strategy allows for you to hook your listener because it engages his or her attention directly. It also enables you to weave in a personal story. This lends to your likability and credibility. 2. When strange is good. In this context, strange means memorable. Using buzzwords and jargon is not going to impress a potential investor, because nothing about your pitch will stand out or create an impression for him or her to recollect well after the pitch is over. In the revised pitch above, the line, "Believe it or not, even the cost of a pizza party will change lives and the generations that follow," is captivating because it addresses the odd fact that something as affordable as a pizza party can significantly make a difference, not just to one or two, but generations. Even if you forgot everything else I said, the pizza part would stick with you. 3. Prospect participation. Be it an MVP or getting your participant involved in the dialogue, make your pitch interactive and relevant. If you have a prototype of any form, be it on the cloud, on your phone, or in your bag, make sure that it's accessible and working. It would also be handy to have some name cards. 4. Don't over-rehearse. The best pitches are tailored to the audience. An over-rehearsed one is hardly that. By all means, perfect your one-liners, but every pitch you make should sound authentic. And 5, fact check. Adding in a fact or two usually helps to build your case. Make sure the facts you pick to share are probably relatively unknown. For example, someone I know used to be a brand consultant for a chocolate factory. Once when I asked him about his job, he said, "Did you know that 1% of chocolate is made out of cockroach?" Not exactly the pitch you might expect, but he had my attention. While I don't remember the context of him sharing that piece of information, I still remember the fact. Always work on your pitch. Practice it until you can comfortably say it without thinking. Remember to stay flexible during your pitch. Don't be too rigid or inflexible in the moment. If you're confident in your idea, it will show. As mentioned earlier, work on versions of it to cater to your various audience. Develop the ability to tolerate and work with interruptions while you give it. Try pitching it to your family, friends, and coworkers. Be open-minded to any feedback you may receive. On the first attempt, it would be unpleasant, uncomfortable, and perhaps downright unbearing to hear all those silly questions and criticism. But, trust me, the sooner you deal with objections, the better you'll be at managing expectations and anticipating questions from investors. The benefit of practicing discomfort is realizing repeatedly that the worst case isn't that bad. Something as minute as asking for a freebie or discount may seem embarrassing to many, but as a business owner, you have to be able to get out of your comfort zone and ask. So, practice getting uncomfortable and realize that the chances of the worst case scenarios you led yourself to believe are slimmer than you think. You can give your elevator pitch as the kickoff to a longer sit-down presentation as well. A pitch works just as well in a formal setting as it does on a street corner, hallway, or in a lift or elevator. Be ready to pitch in an elevator, or at a salad bar, or at a mall, or hallway, or anywhere you might meet the right potential partner for your company. You never know when you'll have the chance to persuade the right person about how amazing your opportunity is and why they should jump at the chance to be involved. Don't be surprised if it takes weeks or months before you have a chance to share your pitch. Just be patient and keep an open mind when to engage people. It may be helpful to understand that when you're pitching to investors, they're making decisions. They are, of course, listening to see if they understand what you're trying to do. They're also deciding whether or not they like you or trust you. No matter how much they like the opportunity, if they don't like and trust you, they will typically walk away from the opportunity. They're also listening to determine if whether or not the startup is fundable. Following up with a potential investor is essential. It's a tough job, but someone's got to do it. If you're lucky, the investor likes what he sees in you and follows up himself. A significant proportion of the investor's decision lies in how you present yourself. Small but strong nonverbal cues like body language, your personality, and most importantly, how the investor feels about you play a big part. How you behave with an investor also makes a big difference. Some founders are extremely in awe of investors and tend to treat them almost like royalty. Our extensive discussions with investors had led to the conclusion that investors are not in favor of this. Although they like being treated with respect, they wish to see confident founders who can hold their own. An investor is probably more likely to grant you a second meeting if he or she felt the business is in solid hands. Solicit interesting ways of garnering attention. Imagine ending your pitch with something outrageous but true. For example, a friend of mine who holds the local tango record likes to end his pitch by saying, "Just so you remember, you'll meet 1,000,000 people today, but only one who is a record holder in tango." He then promises to send the video of his winning act, creating a bridge for follow-up. You might be thinking, "I'm not the sales guy. I don't know how to sell. My product should speak for itself, so I won't have to pitch. Can I just hire someone to pitch for me?" In the initial stages of the startup, your product cannot speak for itself. It lacks brand value, track record, and customers who can vouch for it. Very often, to a potential investor, you are synonymous with the brand and offering. If the offering is your brainchild, you are the best person to answer the why we talked about earlier. Just as an Olympian athlete has a couple of minutes to demonstrate what they've been practicing, you only have a couple of minutes to share your brilliant, world-changing idea. Most entrepreneurs rely on inspiration and stars being aligned in a moment, rather than practicing what they'll say to persuade someone about what they're doing. If you're practiced and prepared, you wouldn't have to count on luck. Remember the golden rule to briefly explain the problem, give some detail on the solution, and suggest how they could be involved. Don't forget to add on facts or other memorable touch points so your pitch remains top of mind.